It's Monday. It's February 20th, 2023. I'm watching CBS this morning. Um, and yesterday I went to the local church. Um, Last week at the social hour, they mentioned something about Robert Moses and Gotham. I was in a conversation with two men, and they were speaking of books I had not read. So the conversation, and I even voiced to them, um, I said, I apologize. I was like, could you explain to me who? I mean, I've heard the name Robert Moses. I just know nothing about the actual person. I was like, what is that in regards to? Um, and then they spoke about some series of something that they both were a part of, where on a bookshelf behind somebody that they were interested in listening to, there's a book called Gotham on every bookshelf behind these certain people. And I'm like, again, I was like, I was more than a little lost in the conversation, but again, this is this atrophy. Um, Now, yesterday, Lewis was listening to something I'll just refer to in diagnostics. For Gnostics, atheist Gnostics at the heist, uh-huh, between two really frightening things I see in street metal, two 5-letter patterns of outside whatever that I don't know if I have any relativity. I was listening to one, and he was speaking such beautiful prose and poetry. Um, and I'm like, again, and linguistically and characteristically, I mean, it was a portrait he was painting with his words. And then, and I think that the chop shop knows who they are, at like really deep chop shop conversations. I mean, there's only one of those. And diagnostic, again, I'm thinking of my pre-pew Bessons in this presidential club of sorts, or ancestry, I mean, in this area, um, with this canopy over this whatever. Um, and then I was listening to Don Hoffman, who my father suggested, and Deepak Chopra, my father also suggested. And I was listening to the two of them. One speaks of, and there was another gentleman, I forget his name. It was a new horizon that in the theory of worlds, of theory of multiple worlds, where a universe begins, and then new horizon in the expansion of the universe as it is moving away from something. Um, that's now, again, in cosmology, because I'm a birthing, like I have a birthing sequence in symmetry that, like, again, high mathematics, they know these things, and the importance of such. But I have that future and the biological clock in the future. Um, so I'm listening this morning to somebody who frequently is around the presidents, um, by the name of Bernie Sanders. He's a senator. And he was speaking of it's okay to be angry at capitalism. And I'm like, well, that's a really nice permissive acknowledgement. I did not learn what capitalism is. In the series of rooms that I was in, growing up here, um, there was whatever in our education, but I did not hear words of government or of this capitalism. And now, my whole thing at like a New Horizons level and a universe and this expansion of the universe, when at prepubescent there was opportunity, but then that window seemed to close and almost all the bubbles were moved outside of that New Horizon circumference or beyond my radial ability to get to. Um, Bernie Sanders speaks of there's a billionaire class. No, at cosmology and the predictability of certain stars and the significance and symbol, not only in symbol, but in this birthing of other universes or new universes thereafter. Um, there is a really significant arrangement that was supposed to be performed a certain way between myself and another whatever in order to bring this child into the world. That's where the break in the galaxy and the reality is because I never got to that. Now there's a super PAC according to Bernie Sanders that's involved, um, and I'm not sure which super PAC is responsible, but again, pre-Pew Bessons, there's some kind of research and whatever. Just recently, they sent me somebody who keeps showing up with Penn State on his. I'm not quite sure what that means, but again, one of my family members that was assigned to me when in my youth, he said that he had the pen, the register, and something else. Um, so that was really important, I thought, or he thought, in a checkbook kind of a way, since that's what my parents used. Miss Nizick confirmed in fifth grade specifically. She wanted to know if my parents wrote personal checks and if they had a register, which I had to confirm in school that they did. Um, just so that super PAC and whatever is occluding or occluded my ability to get into this new horizon and into this expanding universe the way that I needed to get into, so I didn't become a shut in and a prisoner of some unpronounced whatever. So I'm listening to Bernie Sanders this morning with a keen ear. Um, at Keen Building, just so this way I try to get my part straightened out and correct. Um, because the humans have left me with no ability to even. I mean, like, I don't know what the future beholds at this point. There are some that do. I'm not one of them. I don't know what is going to be coming in and what's next. I don't even have the ability to properly prepare for a what's next. This morning on My Three Sons, they had up Douglas's sister came and she was incredibly organized. Where did my person like that go? That's what I needed in school and in preparation for motherhood. But that wasn't even like my schooling wasn't even that structured and that complete in direction. I know some people had it that way, but for some reason that was being withheld from me, and I'm not quite sure why at this US research and development facility that I'm somehow stuck within, but I don't know how to get to my own ancestors, and I don't know who holds the super PAC, and I don't know why the fatherhood part was so was almost derailed. I mean, it became dangerous in the sense that the blood types don't even match. It doesn't even make logical sense in a defense of someone else. It just doesn't. So that's the day on the calendar in this area. They designate it for the presidents. The ones that are on the Washington, um, Washington, one in South Dakota, um, that Washington Monument or National Monument. I'm not even sure because, again, where I was, there was not this really pronounced explain of these things. I want to thank Bernie Sanders for coming out and being so brave and so bold as to even explain this because I have no idea. I'm trying to put together um, where exactly the break in the galaxy is for me at this point on this journey um, that was so forcefully derailed, it feels like, but I don't know by whom. It's somewhere between the union and the super PAC system, I would assume.
We're going to begin this hour with Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont. And Senator, first of all, welcome. Second of all, your visit comes on a day we've got some breaking news, some genuine breaking news from Kyiv, where President Biden met with Ukrainian President Zelensky this morning. It was Mr. Biden's first visit to Ukraine since the Russian invasion nearly a year ago. And this week, also, Senator Sanders is out with a new book. It's called It's Okay to Be Angry About Capitalism. Senator, good morning to you. Because of the Ukraine news, before we get to the book, I want to ask about the situation in Ukraine. We're sending a lot of money there at the moment, money generated by our capitalist system. So there is a connection, I suppose. What?
I went to a place called Ellenville, which had very deep Ukrainian roots, it looked like, and there was some land liquidation sale. Not quite sure the tie in there, but I did go and visit and documented it.
Needs to happen going forward with U.S. policy toward.
Well, I'm glad the president is in Ukraine. What Putin did is outrageous. It is the worst conflict in Europe since World War II. And I think it is important for the United States, NATO, our allies, to tell Putin he's not going to be able to get away with it. And I support what the president is doing.
Support what the president is doing. All right, let's talk about the book. It's okay to be angry about capitalism. Why did you think now was the time for this message, and why okay? It seems like you feel there's a resistance to the idea of any criticism of the golden goose.
Look, Tony, this country faces enormous crises, and it's important that we have a serious discussion about those crises. Economically, what's going on in America? Simple reality is the people on top, the billionaire class, are doing phenomenally well. Meanwhile, the middle class continues to shrink, and in the richest country in the history of the world today, over 60% of the American people are living paycheck to paycheck. Virtually every city in this country has a major housing crisis. We are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people.
My update was I was living paycheck to paycheck when I could get a paycheck until then I had to go out and try to find something to supplement that, which was real estate. But then you have to go into debt in order to make money. The money mechanics don't work. And eventually the house got taken and everything fell apart. And now my health is deteriorating and I can't even seem to find a suitable, I don't even know where to go in order to get a paycheck, to live paycheck to paycheck, which is more disgusting based on the fact of the cosmology and what they use cosmology for in these larger debates at higher educated that I was somehow precluded from or occluded from in this fight with whatever, which is why I guess prepubescent exists.
People, as a human right, we spend twice as much per capita. Meanwhile, drug companies making billions, the insurance companies making billions. The gap between the rich and everybody else growing wider. We don't talk about those issues. Let's lay it out on the table. Let's have that
You
debate.
talk about those issues, you lay them out very well here in the book, and you say things that we had heard from you on the campaign trail many years ago. But I think what the American people struggle with is how do you change a system that appears to be broken in so many ways?
Okay, well, let's put it, that's a good question. And the answer is the system is working very, very well. For the people who own this network, for the billionaire class. We are involved in class warfare. People on top are doing great. So it's not hard to come up with the idea. You want healthcare for all? Every major country on earth is doing. I live 50 miles away from Canada. You have leukemia, you're in the hospital for a month. You know what your bills when you get out? Zero. As a nation that's spending half what we spend per capita.
So you look at taxing billionaires for an example, but what other solutions are you offering?
Well, in terms of healthcare, look, just think for a moment. If everybody in America today said, you know what, when I'm sick, my kid is sick, I go to the doctor, I don't have to worry about the bill. All right, you know what that would mean to the health of this country? If people did not have to worry about sending their kids to college and what it would cost them. Yeah. If people didn't see their housing cost. We are the richest country in the history of the world. We should be discussing it. Why don't we have health care for all? Why isn't college education, these public colleges and universities, tuition free? Why do we have a gap? Do you think, does anybody think America, 3 people are more wealth than the bottom half of American society? Anyone think that's appropriate? Let's talk about it. What do we do about it?
And you're saying that the system is working the way it's intended to work.
Exactly. It's working great for the billionaire class.
No doubt about it. Now, you introduced a bill last week with Senator Warren that would not only extend Social Security, but increase benefits. Now, do you believe that by taxing wealthier Americans that you could get some bipartisan support on this bill?
We'll see. But when we talk about the problems of America and why we're not solving them, please don't forget that this political system is corrupt as well. All right? So if you are a member of Congress,
right,
and you were put into power by some super PAC owned by a billionaire, you think the first thing you're going to do is say, I think billionaires should pay their fair share of taxes. I doubt it. So you got a corrupt political system. I know that sounds harsh. If super PACs can spend unlimited sums of money to beat you, right, is that corrupt? I think it is.
One of your proposals in here is actually to rewrite parts of the Constitution to make changes. But the guy at home right now, even the guy not doing well sitting at home, might be saying, yeah, but you're acknowledging that this system we have has created more wealth than any country's ever had in the history of the world. Tremendous innovation, things you acknowledge in the book, and now you're talking about changing that? I get, or tweaking it. What that?
Tony, it has created enormous wealth for the people on top. You tell me, in this great nation, I grew up in a family that struggled economically. We lived paycheck to paycheck. Why today, in 2023, over 60% of the people live in paycheck to paycheck? Why? Let's talk about where we want to go. And I'll tell you something else that's happening. With all of the artificial intelligence, the robotics are out there. Who's making those decisions, whether you're going to have a job or not have a job? Are working people involved in? So all that I'm saying in this book, in that this age, with all of the technology out there, all the wisdom out there, let's create an economy that works for all, not just a few.
I want to ask a question about Jimmy Carter here, but on AI, is current tax policy in this country that if companies buy an AI system, it's a capital investment, even if it lays off workers, they get a tax benefit.
You're right.
Encouraged by the system. I imagine you would want to change that.
We would.
You're saying tax robots.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Jimmy Carter, just a core of decency and modesty. Didn't serve on corporate boards, went back to his hometown, didn't go to live in some giant mansion, didn't give high-powered speeches worth a lot of money. Regular guy, not a quote normal guy, seems like a regular guy in real life. Your most memorable encounter with him, if you could, sir.
Everything you said is true. I mean, he was a good president. I think what people will remember him for is what he did after the presidency. He didn't capitalize on being president. He got on boards, didn't make a whole lot of money. I think he still lives today in the home that he grew up in, James, Georgia. I had the opportunity to meet him several times. Decency is the word. His family is very decent, down to earth, ordinary people. I was with him a number of years ago at the Carter Center, which does really, really good work, among other things, making sure that elections held around the world are done democratically and fairly. So he has lived out his post-presidential years with a lot of dignity. We should all be proud of what what he's accomplished.
All right, Senator Sanders, I see your wife Jane over there. Did you give her a text or anything on Valentine's Day? Just to.
I have no comment on that, actually. It's classified.
I'm trying to catch Jane's eye over there. We'll talk about that in the break. Senator Sanders, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. The book is It's Okay to Be Angry About Capitalism, and it goes on sale tomorrow. And you can see more of Senator Sanders tonight on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. That will be a very good conversation.
Oh, that's going to be good. I'm going to tune in for that. Ahead, former Netflix.
And now here they have somebody on, it's a woman who's a mathematician, and she seems to be very successful, and she was able to get from her universe into this new horizon, like expanding portion of the universe within her life frame and time frame. She has on a special jacket, she's got on a special symbol, not really sure what that's about. So I know it's not just a woman's issue with me. I mean, that might be part of it in like, who was your grandmother and what number are you in the birthing order of the family tree. I get that. But there were other important things based on what happened before I arrived.
Here's a question on many people's minds right now. Will artificial intelligence and other advanced technologies help or hurt us? Mathematician Hannah Fry's new show, The Future with Hannah Fry, aims to demystify the technology that's shaping our lives. Fry is a professor in the mathematics of cities, and she says...
Mathematics of cities. I've never even heard that possibility before today. Again, even the construct of how the humans created this new horizons in this expansion, a roadmap wasn't even provided, a personality test to what I might be good at, and then a system of like roadmaps to get me there was never provided.
Math can teach us a lot about ourselves, even about love. In the first episode, The 150-Year Life, she discusses advances in our understanding of DNA. Take a look.
So now, scientists, they've worked out that if you look along a strand of DNA, you can find these very particular markers along it that can give them an idea of how many epigenetic changes you have experienced, which in a sense gives them a sort of epigenetic clock on your own body. And that can tell them not only how old you are now, but also how long you're likely to live.
Oh.
It also theoretically is possible that it alerts an even lesser known system if there's any changes in the management or the interactive feature between the personal body and this atmosphere or climate, and how the unit of measurement, being the biological feature, is in some survival process within it. And if that's first mark, if it's been taken over or if it's starting to collapse in some way, shifting the gravity, the relativity gravity of whatever keeps us upright and walking. So on this woman's jacket, she has this symbol, which I don't even know what that is or how to even find out what it is. I don't have a construct for it. I don't even have an inkling as to what it might be. Now this is season 1, episode 19 of My Three Sons in the Black and White Era. And it says, Steve's efficient sister visits and complicates the Douglas household. Now this is interesting because in my real world and my real life, I don't have siblings. I don't have brothers, sisters. I have a mother and father, that's it. And within my life frame of schooling and all of the time that could have been invested properly so I could have gotten to where I need to inside Super PAC, in like participation in cosmology without perversion, there's been some derailment. I'm watching how Like, I mean, it would have been really nice to have it constructed and then what needs to be followed. Like that would be an expectation, especially if you are the one piece of the future in cosmology. You're going to be a birthing unit of the next universe or the next set of timing clocks or the next set of biological features and biological entities on this rock that they call Earth.
Don't worry, it's really very simple. Of course, for the first couple of days, we can expect a little confusion. But by the end of the week, we should be able to give your father a real surprise for his homecoming.
Well, waffles in the dining room, huh? Kind of fancy.
Kitchen for cooking, dining room freebie. Now, these are your individual activity charts. The abbreviations on the obverse side can be decoded by means of the key on the reverse side. Whoosh!
Activity charts. Now, I was given one of these once when I went to the Canada trip. They called it an itinerary. And then some of the conferences out in Las Vegas, they handed out an itinerary. Only time in my life that it's been that structured and scheduled, except when we went to junior high and high school, they gave a lesser version of this with limited variability and nothing that produced results within my life frame to get me to, if they took away the marriage, which they did, then how was I to function as a single unit? Which brings in other problems of there's been no physical contact and nothing at like a hungry, thirsty level that a human actually needs in order to maintain other levels of operating at a humanistic level.
About ready for another waffle, are you?
Going right up.
Hey,
Jeepers in here.
here at 7:30 I got NBMCU and Chip's only got BT. And here there at 3 o'clock I have SP and BP. And Chip only has LS. How come? You don't even know what you're complaining about. Turn it over and read it. Oh. BK, breakfast, ironing, L, laundry.
Right, you're catching on quickly. Now,
Now, there's this thing that I've heard exists somewhere, like a mentor, spiritual guide, guidance counselor. I've learned these things after I never had access to any of them, or such few, but not installed properly. But that seems to me like what she's characterized as. But again, I don't know in like a Yeo man way, since I'm stuck with a Tio Frio at Uncle Cold, and I don't really know the symbolic gesture of whatever this partition has like wanted me to say was a blessing in disguise. Yeah, really? No, and not on any level.
now let's have a little quiz to make sure we understand this much before I give you the rest.
Harriet, these are the best waffles I've ever eaten.
Thank you. Now, ready, everybody? 7:45. What about you, Bob?
No thanks, I couldn't eat another bite. God, I tell you.
No, we're going to have a dry run. Pick up your individual chart with the key on the back.
Here, this is yours, bud. Read across.
7:45. Chip, BT, brush teeth. Right. Robbie?
MB, make bed. Guy,
Mike?
DR, dress.
And Bob? Bob?
See, there's some form of interactive feature where somebody has to be the teacher and teach them how to schedule and how to organize their day properly in order for like efficiency. That was never installed properly in my life frame in the early stages.
Oh, yeah. SBKT&L. Sounds like some Eastern railroad.
Now check the key.
What?
Here, bud, it's on the back. See, at 7:45, you SBKT and L. Serve breakfast at Trev and then do the laundry.
So today is February 2023, and on the 20th It's the George Washington's birthday observed for President's Day, and I'm in the matching pattern. Yesterday I attended, it's Sunday, this. So I don't even know where to begin, and I don't see, and I don't know how to get a path between where I was supposed to be and where I am now, at a new horizon that opened up with some expanding universe that broke the galaxy, since I was not able to get to the correct marriage for the very special child I was going to birth either way. So that's why, I mean, like, jealousy can't even be brought into this, for the simple fact of there are other people at Super PAC that know this. And it's a gauge within a very symmetrical system that does not take into account human error, or it doesn't accommodate human error very well. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. And it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.